Hey there, how's it going? It's time for another unboxing. And you know what? Let's make it a beers and gears episode as well. So we're gonna have a little bit of Athletic Brewing's Free Wave non-alcoholic IPA. Just as good as pretty much any other IPA that I've had. Ooh. Okay, so this unboxing is a little bit of an maybe departure from all the bait finesse gear, but not really. You know, as I really started getting into bait finesse, there were more and more people that I saw asking questions on Reddit and Facebook groups about a digitally controlled BFS reel. Is there a DC BFS reel coming from Shimano? Now they did make one, I think it was the Cardiff 50 DC, which pretty much falls into that category, and they're $900, maybe $1,000 to pick up one of those. You know, the idea of digitally controlled reels, they need a certain amount of mass and momentum to work, as I understand it. You know, it's basically an induction system, so there's got to be enough mass for it to have something to control, essentially. So what I have here, though, is that it's quite possible that this is essentially the bait finesse DC reel that a lot of people are looking for. It is a DC reel. It's rated down to 5 grams to function well. And if you look at a lot of Shimano's BFS bass rods, their ratings start at 5 grams. They go like 5 to 12, 5 to 15 grams. There may be some that are rated lower than that, but the only ones that I've personally come across are the trout stream related ones, the ones that are shorter and they're, you know, like the Cardiffs, and they're aimed at trout fishing. The bass rods typically start around 5 grams, 3/16 of an ounce or something like that. So when I heard about this reel, I thought about it, and then I got a pretty good price on it. At least I thought it was pretty good, so I had to give it a try. So today we're looking at the Shimano SLX DC XT, and it's from Japan Lure Shop, which also means there's probably a free lure in here. So let's look for a freebie. Oh, here we go. What's the freebie? What is it? Ooh. I don't know. This is a pretty good one. This is a Mega Bass Griffin. It runs down to about 7 feet. It's a great little lure, actually. Let's see what's the weight on this one. Might be covered up on the weight. 1/4 ounce. All right, I order BFS reels and they send me standard lures, and I order something that's arguably a standard reel, and it's they send me something that would work for BFS. This is really cool. I don't know what these go for, but you know, the fact that got it for free, it's nice. What's the color? Oh, it's the Wagon Hasu too. It's a good color combo too. It's not like it's crap. So awesome. You know, honestly, I could have got this for about $5 less from somewhere else. And I said, no, I'm gonna go with Japan Lure Shop because they're probably gonna throw a $10 or $15 lure in. So, and it gets here super fast. Let's see what we have in here. Okay, all the manuals and stuff like that. I have noticed that lately Shimano has not been throwing in oil. I've got a few things of it, but okay, let's see what we got here. Ooh, man, that's a nice looking reel. We'll take this out and compare it to the Alderbaran, but right off the bat, it reminds me of the Alderbaran. I like the paint job. Some people don't like the fact that I don't go deep enough into the specs and all that stuff. But aesthetics matter to me. We're gonna throw this on the rod that I have it planned for, at least initially, as well. Let's see if we got some specs on the box here. No. Oh wait, yeah, here we go. This is the Shimano SLX DC XT. It's supposed to be a really long casting lure. It is obviously digitally controlled. I got this for really a couple applications. One is topwater baits, the topwater stuff. You know, it's sort of on the upper end of bait finesse. The other one is crankbaits. I want to be able to throw those things a lot farther to cover a little bit more water. And so I think that's part of what I want. And then the third application, actually, and this is sort of what sealed it for me, is one of the limitations of bait finesse is the gear just isn't quite strong enough to work with frogs. Now, I think the rod that I'm starting with initially may not be strong enough to get into some really heavy stuff, but it has a little bit more backbone than a lot of the bait finesse stuff. It's one of my old medium weight casting rods, so I'm going to pair it with that initially just to get started. You know, ever since I think the first time I saw somebody cast a DC reel was, I thought I was going to sneeze there. I think the first time I saw somebody cast a DC reel was John B, and he was testing some $400 Japanese reel. And man, and personally, I was sort of, I liked I thought the sound was sort of cool. It was just something different. Indie Yak Angler has also, I've seen him use them too. So I've always sort of been like, oh, maybe that's the direction I'll go. But I got hooked by bait finesse, and I love ultralight fishing, and I love using the smaller reels. This is not that dissimilar in size to a lot of the bait finesse stuff. And the fact that it can cast down to 5 grams, it's sort of like smack in the middle of the traditional bait finesse range. So I can throw 1/4 ounce crankbaits on this, no problem. I'll try, but I probably won't do well with stuff down to 1/8 of an ounce, but I'll be pushing the envelope and see how small I can go. This one has a lot more line capacity than traditional bait finesse reels. You know, it looks like it'll hold 105 yards versus the 40 yards, so it's 2.5 times the capacity. You know, and I start thinking about, okay, as I do a little bit more saltwater fishing coming up soon, as I get into, you know, the one lake that I plan on spending some time on, you know, it gets down to like 70 to 100 feet deep. For deeper water situations, for just covering a little bit more water, I thought I'd give it a try. And again, I really want to see, like, is this close to, you know, the bait finesse version of a DC reel? Is this the closest we're going to get anytime soon? So it's 8.1 to 1 gear ratio. It says it has 12 pounds of drag. It only weighs 6.9 ounces. So the Alderbaran is the lightest out of the group, and it doesn't have any specs on the box, so that doesn't help me out much. So this one's 195 grams. The Alderbaran is around 135, 138 grams. So it's 50% heavier than the Alderbaran. But it's only 20 grams more, like half an ounce more than the Curado BFS. So it really is a pretty small reel. You know, it's definitely smaller than your traditional DC reels for sure. I've never looked inside a DC reel. Again, there's at least one guy who's going to be aggravated that I'm not going to get into all the specs and stuff as I open this up. I'm going to look at it and say, oh, okay, that's what's in there. I'm probably also going to be aggravated that I'm going to say it's hard to open and leave it at that. Oh, so here's a cool little thing. If I'd read the manual, I'd get these things, but here it says open. It's got a setting for 1, 2, 3, 4, and W, which I think is wind mode. So to open it up, you have to turn it to open. Sort of makes sense, right? And even then, you may not be able to get it open. Okay, and then on the inside, there's also, you have to set this switch here to whether you're using PE, which is what I'm going to use. So PE, you move it here, nylon, which is your typical monofilament, and then fluorocarbon. You can see this does have the IDC5, which is the latest version of Shimano's DC braking. Here's the coil, it goes inside here. I don't profess to understand exactly how all of this works, but now that I understand how that works, it works pretty good. And honestly, I'll probably start this off clear up on like 4 or maybe even wind mode, I don't know. Here's a notice. Shimano no longer includes lubricant with its products. It may be suggested or stated in some manuals that there is additional lubricant. However, this is not the case. No more lubricant. It's all in Japanese. And while there was a great song in the 80s or 90s about I think I'm turning Japanese, I am not. So relying on what I saw in the reel and a little bit of my electronics background, I think this is all induction based, which is awesome. So it's magnets and it's a coil, so as the reel spans, it creates a magnetic force, and that actually helps it apply other brakes. Here's one possible downside. There's no clicking drag on this. Something I didn't realize, but I mean, it's the only small DC reel that you're going to get right now. So that is what it is. We'll have to get into how to properly adjust the spool tension and all that stuff. This one doesn't have all the silencing bushings. It is the SLX line. It doesn't have all the silencing bushings that the Alderbaran has. So I'll probably adjust this based on rate of fall from the lure, and we'll go from there. I think the color scheme it's like a blue, silver, gray color. It's got these blue accents. I do have a rod picked up, but I'm not gonna. I always change my mind at the last minute. So there is a rod that I plan on getting. This does have the MGL 3 spool, which is, I think, the exact same spool that's on the Alderbaran as well. I mean, just aesthetics out of the box, I'm really thrilled by it. So what I want to do now is we're going to go outside. Won't take the main camera, but we'll take the other two cameras. We'll go out. I'll put this on a rod. I also realize I probably don't have enough line. I mean, this holds over 100 yards, and most of my spools that I buy are only 100 yards to begin with, and I don't think I have a new spool. I'm probably going to start with the J braid on this because I've been liking the way it performs so far. So let's head outside, see how this fits and feels, and then we'll compare it side by side with the Alderbaran. Okay, so if we look at these, I'm trying to figure out how to do this the right way, but if we look at these, this is the Alderbaran and this is the SLX DC side by side. So the chassis design is definitely different. The thumb bar might even be the same thumb bar. The set screw looks the same. It looks like the same, might be the same arm. Nah, that's the arm. I think this is the arm from the Curado. I think ultimately what we have here is we have a blend of the Curado and the Alderbaran. It's got the Alderbaran spool, or at least a modified version of it. I did get the XG, which is 8.1 to 1, just because of the way I'm planning on working it. Might be a little fast for crankbaits, but I'll just have to slow down. So that's the comparison to the Alderbaran. And if we look at it side by side with the Curado, so you can see the frame is the same, right? This is the same frame. This is a little bit different here, but in general, it looks like it's using the same frame. It is a different crank, so I think this is the Alderbaran handle with slightly different knobs. It definitely has the Alderbaran tension control knob. So you can see this side looks a little bit more reminiscent, but it's going to be its own. It's going to be its own thing, but it definitely takes features of both of those. And then the rod, we'll just talk about it real quick. This is an old, like 15 plus year old, probably 17-year-old casting rod, but it's a 6'6". But you can see it's rated from 1/4 ounce to 5/8 of an ounce, which should be right in the range of everything that I want to throw with it. And it's just a Shimano Convergence. It doesn't look too bad on there. It's not. I think if I end up with a rod that has a little bit more blue highlights in it, but or even just black, I think it'd be better. This had an old Sitka casting reel on it. Then one other thing to talk about real quick is some people like to talk about balance, and so this is definitely, with this light reel, this rod is definitely tip heavy. The balance point is a little bit more towards the center of the grip. I typically like them a little bit closer to the reel, so it is. I mean, and I can feel it. It is a little tip heavy, so I may have to get a lighter weight rod overall, because this is an older rod, so it's definitely a little bit heavier construction. I think for walk the dog type stuff, where it's going to be tipped down anyway. Crankbaits, I want to be tipped down. So I don't think it's necessarily the wrong answer, at least to start with. And like I said, we'll just see how it goes. When I had the opportunity to pick this up from Japan Lure Shop, it seemed like the prices were fantastic. So yeah, that's the new SLX DC. It's kind of nice to be doing a little bit of filming out here near the backyard. At least we can do it today. It's in the 50s, so need to get out on the water here real soon. If you're interested to see how well this performs as a sort of a power BFS digitally controlled reel, consider subscribing, because I have a feeling I'm going to be fishing it a lot this year. Smallmouth are going to be my primary target. We'll have the new kayak out, and obviously there's a few Daiwa reels in there, but I got a ton of Shimano stuff that I'm going to be fishing with this year. So appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.